Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain a Japanese supernatural horror film from 2025, titled Bloat. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. The movie begins in a hospital, where a pregnant woman named Hannah is in labor, with her husband, Jack Reynolds, a U.S. military officer by her side. Hannah gives birth to a baby girl, whom they plan to name Olivia, but the child is stillborn. After the tragedy, Hannah suggests that they go on a vacation to cope with the loss. Jack searches for the best travel destinations and decides on Tokyo, making all the necessary arrangements. However, he is suddenly called back to active duty due to unrest in the Middle East by his brigadier general, and as a result, his family takes the trip without him. Jack keeps in touch with his family through text messages, and Hannah shares how she and their sons, Steve and Kyle, are enjoying Tokyo. During a FaceTime call with Hannah, who is relaxing near a river, the call suddenly cuts off when 10-year-old Kyle nearly drowns in a nearby lake during a terrifying incident. News of the event spreads online, accompanied by a video. Kyle is resuscitated, and while watching the footage, Jack notices Kyle coughing up slime. At the hospital, Jack calls Steve because Hannah isn't answering her phone and asks him how the incident happened, and Steve explains it to him. Days later, everything seems to return to normal, and Kyle appears to be okay, though he doesn't talk much. Hannah tells Jack that Kyle has suddenly developed a love for cucumbers, which Jack finds strange since Kyle never liked them before. Kyle then begins exhibiting bizarre behavior, such as biting his brother when he tries to take a frog from him, and his eyes occasionally turning green. Concerned, Jack starts researching Kyle's aggressive behavior and the unusual eye color. He contacts Dr. Shinji Ishikawa, Kyle's therapist, and explains what's been happening. However, Dr. Ishikawa reassures him that the behavior is normal and that Kyle just needs time to heal after the near-drowning experience. Although some research suggests Kyle may be suffering from PTSD, Jack remains unsure. Eventually, he finds a mysterious lead on the deep web and sends an email inquiry. On Kyle's birthday, Jack orders a drone for him, and when he asks Hannah about Kyle, she says he's sleeping. But as she steps outside to collect the package, Jack briefly catches a glimpse of Kyle standing silently on the stairs. Soon after, Jack receives a message written in Japanese, from Kyle, even though Kyle doesn't know the language. Jack is able to translate the Japanese text and learns what it says. While playing with his drone alongside Steve, Kyle flies it so high that it crashes into the lake. To Jack's shock, he watches as Kyle swims with incredible skill to retrieve it. Later, during a FaceTime call, Steve tells Jack how much Kyle has changed and sends him a video of Kyle voraciously eating cucumbers, not just regular ones, but rotten cucumbers infested with bugs. Jack calls Hannah, demanding an explanation for why she hasn't told him about Kyle's recent behavior. Their disagreement over how to handle the situation creates tension between them, and Jack ends the call. Later, Jack apologizes, and Hannah admits she may have been overly dramatic. Jack then watches a video from the day Hannah lost their daughter to stillbirth. Jack reveals an email from the deep website, Dark Thread, which he had signed up for, and there, he comes across various videos about supernatural events. One article explains that glitchy images in videos can reveal entities hidden inside people. One video shows a man being forced to commit suicide by an entity living within him. That night, Jack has a dream about a woman standing near a lake, followed by a vision of Kyle with his face grotesquely distorted. The next day, Hannah calls Jack in a panic to inform him that Steve is missing and that she is heading to the police station. However, it turns out to be a misunderstanding, just kid stuff. Later, Steve sends Jack a voicemail and a video from the day he went missing, showing that he had followed his entranced younger brother into the woods at night. During a FaceTime call, Jack scolds Steve for stressing Hannah by going into the forest without telling her, and Steve apologizes. Before ending the call, Steve tells Jack about what he saw in the forest, and concerned, Jack orders mini cameras for Steve to set up around the Airbnb so he can monitor the family remotely. Steve also reveals that Hannah has started taking pills again, and Jack says he'll talk to her. Disturbed by everything he has heard, Jack reaches out to his military friend Ryan Aoki, who is stationed nearby in Okinawa, and asks for his help in figuring out what is happening to his family in Japan. Meanwhile, Steve receives and sets up the cameras that Jack ordered, then sends Jack the login details so he can monitor the family remotely. During a FaceTime call with Kyle, the screen begins to glitch, and Jack sees an insect crawling inside Kyle's neck. He tells Hannah about it, but she refuses to believe him, thinking he hallucinated it. Later, Hannah calls Jack, emotionally overwhelmed, saying she is at her breaking point. Kyle is acting wildly, screaming that he wants to go home, and behaving like an animal. Jack reassures her, telling her to stay put and promises that he will be joining them in Japan very soon. Meanwhile, Ryan sends Jack a video of what he found during a nighttime visit to the forest, and in the footage, Jack spots a strange creature. Ryan consults a monk, who after reviewing the video, tells them that Kyle is possessed by a Kappa, a mythical amphibious creature from Japanese folklore that can sometimes be seen through digital glitches. The monk recounts a similar case from 15 years ago, involving an American who brought his possessed son to their temple, but tragically, the monk who handled the case died. He warns Jack that if the Kappa remains inside Kyle for too long, it will eventually swallow Kyle's soul, and the only way to stop it is to destroy the creature by fire. Ryan informs Jack that the Kappa has a hollow on its head filled with water, and if that water dries up, the creature loses its power and can then be killed using firearms. Intrigued and desperate for answers, Jack searches the dark thread for similar cases and comes across one. Through his research, he discovers the case of Chuck Gray, a boy whose father, Derek, an ex-Marine, claimed his son was possessed by a supernatural spirit, and Derek ultimately killed Chuck by setting him on fire. Jack watches a video from Derek's trial, where Derek explains to the court why he did it, insisting it was the only way to save his son. However, the court did not believe him, and he was convicted. Determined to learn more, Jack manages to contact Derek, who is in prison. Derek confirms that Chuck experienced the same symptoms Kyle is now showing. He believes the spirit, likely a Kappa, seeks to use a boy as a human vessel to escape its homeland. He warns Jack to prepare for the possibility that he might lose his own son too. That night, Ryan calls Jack to inform him that he is fully equipped and ready to venture into the forest to hunt down the Kappa. Jack tells him to wait until the next day, as he has taken leave and will be joining him in Tokyo. However, Ryan warns that a typhoon is approaching and will last for several days, meaning they don't have much time, and realizing the urgency, Jack tells Ryan to go ahead without him. Jack FaceTimes Hannah, who is relaxing in the bathtub, and when he asks about the kids, she casually tells him they went to the Hanabi festival. During their conversation, Jack notices a centipede crawling behind her and alerts her. Hannah kills it with her bare hand, then suddenly starts laughing maniacally, which unsettles Jack. Meanwhile, using the night vision goggles app Ryan sent him, Jack watches as Ryan ventures into the woods with his rifle. Through his computer screen, Jack sees Ryan spot a shadowy figure hiding behind a tree. Ryan raises his rifle to shoot, but the weapon malfunctions, and Jack yells through the call, urging him to run, but it's too late. The terrifying figure emerges from the darkness and attacks Ryan as the screen distorts and cuts off. The next day, Jack immediately books a flight to Tokyo and tries calling Hannah, but she doesn't answer. After arriving, he drives straight to the Airbnb where his family has been staying, only to find the place empty. Inside, he notices a wine bottle lying on the floor, and when he checks the bathroom, he finds Hannah dead in the bathtub. Suddenly, on one of the surveillance cameras Steve had set up, Jack sees an amphibious figure, something inhuman stalking the hallways. As Jack watches in horror, a mysterious fire ignites inside the home. Spotting Kyle trapped within the flames, Jack doesn't hesitate, he rushes into the fire to save his son. News of the incident quickly spreads online, and Jack is taken into custody. Although both Kyle and Steve survive the fire, Jack is arrested and put on trial for Hannah's death and the alleged assault on his sons. In court, both Kyle and Steve testify that Jack never hurt them and had only tried to protect them. However, with suspicions of PTSD and alcoholism casting doubt on his credibility, the court refuses to believe his story. Ultimately, Jack is convicted and sentenced to 45 years in prison, and the movie concludes. Okay guys, that's all the recap about Bloat from 2025. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.